Well, that's just incredible that you did that. I can
Yeah,
relate only in that I reached a point where with my electric guitars, I was like, I'm tired of taking these in to be set up. I'm just going to learn to set up myself. And I watched a
yeah,
bunch of YouTube videos, and man, I love YouTube because
yeah,
you can,
exactly. Me too.
it's like, yeah, I've become, the household mechanic thanks to YouTube and
Yeah,
uh,
and
everything.
yeah, and I'm still learning with every build. And I'm sure I mean, there's lots of luthiers out there with a lot more experience and knowledge than I am, sure. But I'm at the point where I'm very happy with the instruments I make, so I'm comfortable with the quality of them, and that's good. That's a good feeling.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've shared things with me in emails and pictures. Is there a place where people can see what you're building? Do you have a
Yeah,
website? I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but
yeah, I created a website this Christmas that I put together, which is heimguitars.no. I can resend the link to you. And there I put out both build pictures and pictures of finished guitars and some recordings and stuff like that. Some of my other music as well, that is not for classical guitar. And yeah, just all my musical and building activities are somewhere collected there, somehow
very
collected there.
cool.
Yeah.
I actually do think I've been. I forget sometimes, but I do think I've been to that because I was checking out all your stuff. But yeah, if you don't mind resending the link, I'm
Yeah,
sure
totally do
everyone
that.
would be very interested in checking that out.
Totally do that.
I'll share it.
Cool.
What about the new compositions? I'd like to because I'm
Yeah,
gonna play those after our interview on the podcast. And
there's before we go there, there's a couple of things I've wanted to bounce off you,
oh, okay,
or that I had in mind actually, and it's related to guitar construction and also some of the topics you've had on the show, right? And
awesome.
one of the things that come up is compositions for classical guitar, right? That's part of the reason why I started this, and
Yeah, that's kind of the main, supposed
and
to be the
so
main idea.
yeah, and if you look at the history of the classical guitar, that could be partially the reason why there are not so many works for guitar as other instruments, right? Because the guitar shape we know today didn't appear until the 1850s, when this guy Antonio Torres started evolving the guitar into the shape we see today, and he's kind of considered the father of modern classical guitars. Before that, you had the four-string guitar in the Renaissance, which was more of a folk instrument to strum. You had, you got five strings into the Baroque periods, but lute was, still the high art instrument or whatever. And so these guitars back then, they lacked volume, they lacked popularity in many cases among composers, and definitely couldn't partake in an orchestra, which would just drown the sound, right?
Right.
Which is why there's not a lot of concertos, and so that has a lot to do with it, and that it wasn't until the 1815 when Antonio Torres started evolving it a lot more. That and Tarrega got one of his guitars, or three of his guitars over time, but he got one of his guitars, and we all know what Tarrega did for classical guitar.
Yeah.
um, so it wasn't until 1790 approximately that the guitar got six strings at all. So it's got a history of being outcompeted a bit by the lute in the earlier musical periods, and I think that's a huge reason why there's much less works for the guitar
Oh,
from the earlier
definitely.
periods, at
I mean,
least.
it's a relatively young instrument.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny, the violinist referred to Stradivari, but he actually built guitars too.
Oh, really?
Yes, he
I did
did.
not know that.
So he did build guitars actually. And I think there's about four or five still in existence of those guitars, but they did not have the same fame as his violins, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Well, yeah. When I talk about that, I don't. Um, I mean, that is the reasoning behind it, and it's more of a lament, if anything, is I do wish that we could have had some of
Mm,
these composers do works for
yeah,
guitars. But
exactly.
there, I mean, like you say, Tarrega did, you know, really brought it to the next place. And
Yeah, and a lot of the old lute music plays quite well on the guitars too. So there's
yeah,
quite a bit of repertoire to pick from there as well.
definitely. And a lot of the Baroque as well, like you said, the lute.
Yeah,
But specifically, like Bach's music translates very well. Um,
to all kinds of instruments, really.
yeah, he that is kind of the thing with Bach is you can play
Uh-huh.
him on anything. Um,
Exactly.
and
So
I guess the period I wish we had is because I do feel like we have a lot of good Baroque stuff and the Renaissance, and then
hmm.
some romantic. I do
Yeah,
like the
and
romantic guitar composers, but they can be also a bit like Mertz and Coste.
yeah.
They're nice, but they're a little long-winded sometimes. Like,
I totally agree, and there's lots of guitar pieces I find completely boring, to be honest.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just,
me too.
and just I don't really want to learn them or listen to them, but there's some of them I just found. I do like the romantic period and the melodic ones. A lot of melodic guitar pieces is something I like a lot. But
Yeah,
yeah, the thing too, also the classical period. Then you started with Sohr and Carulli and these guys. They wanted to write much more advanced music, and they did, but the publishers didn't want it because they wanted pieces that people could play. So, I think a lot of music got lost there too, which was potentially some of the best work of at least Carulli. They say that the publishers just rejected his work because it was too complicated.
oh, really?
Yeah, so
That's
so
interesting
there's
because Caruli
yeah,
is one that that's one I've gotten bored with. Like
yeah.
at some point I just said I'm done with Caruli because
Yeah, it's it's a lot of studies and simpler pieces, right? Lots of great ones, and great for learning. And there's a good
yeah,
variety there as well. But
they make great student pieces.
yeah, yeah,
I
and
guess
there's
I played one of his guitar concertos when I was in college, the A
mm,
major one,
yeah,
and I just didn't think it was very fun to play, to tell you the truth. I liked to listen to it,
yeah,
but I found it there were sections of it that a lot of practice, a lot of work, some of those like fast arpeggios that were triplets, and it took a lot of technicality, and then the reward was it just didn't feel very rewarding.
yeah. Well, I guess I should be careful in commenting on classical guitar composers.
Well,
uh,
yeah, me too, but
it might quickly boomerang back to me or us or whatever.
well, that's a fair point. Uh,
But I mean, we all have our preferences as far as
yeah,
what kind of music we enjoy playing and listening to. So I
definitely.
guess,
Well, I definitely used to have more of a kind of a college student know-it-alls attitude, and I was more judging these pieces by their composition. And feel like, oh, this just doesn't have the compositional qualities that could have been, or but now to me it's more like, is it fun to play?
yeah, exactly.
And that's really where it comes down to me. Is it fun to play? Is it fun to listen to?
Hmm.
And I'm actually kind of in a struggle there with Villalobos because I find most of his music very, very fun to play,
I
and I
agree.
find some of it nice to listen to. Um, but what's kind of left is the handful of etudes that were the last choices for me.
Yeah.
And I want to get through them all just to say I have played through and at one point had every Villalobos solo piece in my fingers.
Mm.
And like I'm doing number 4 right now, and I'm really tired of it because I don't find it musically rewarding and
Mm.
really even technically rewarding, but
Yeah, exactly.
but yet I'm
And then
forcing myself to
sometimes
see it through.
it's like, who am I doing this for?
Exactly.
Am I doing this for me, or am I planning to perform it or record it, or yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
So I
Well,
know
that's another
exactly what you
thing.
mean.
I hate to admit it, but I don't perform anymore,
Yeah.
and it's just not a there's no place in my life for it right now, and
Well, I
I
mean, with
don't
the
know
whole
when to.
pandemic has been going on too, that's been challenging in any case, right? So,
Yes, but honestly, for me, it was before the pandemic. The
okay,
pandemic
yeah.
has nothing to do with it. Uh,
Oh,
I guess my outlet there has been more recording, writing a piece, recording it. That's very exciting, and so the practice is getting it up to a
yeah,
recording level, which is
right.
basically performance level. I want to get a good recording, but a
Yeah,
lot of that's really only been my composition. I haven't recorded very many like works, by other composers, and
no, me neither. I've done some YouTube videos, but not no recordings really of anything else than my own. But
yeah.
so, but yeah, no, I forced myself to start doing concerts again a few 3, 4, or 5 years ago. I hadn't done one since college, and so I
Oh,
was
really?
like, yeah, it was a fearful event to go out to start performing again. It felt like that was quite a challenge, but I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and so I started doing senior centers and other things, and then I started doing other places as well. But and I figured that's something I've been wanting to do, and so I just decided I'm going to, and that helps build confidence and performing again as well, and that's great.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. So I made this sort of it's a mix of history and playing, where I talk about the history of classical guitar, basically about the development and all that, and play different music from different eras to make sort of a story around it instead of just performing, which has been kind of fun.
That's cool. I love that idea.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying doing it and performing that, and it's sort of a. I mean, when you listen to classical guitar for a long time, it becomes. I mean, it can become. It's for special interested people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you have a crowd that maybe not so familiar with all the works or whatever, then it's a good way to break it up by also you speaking for a bit and telling some history or stories.
That's a great idea.
Hmm.
I yeah, I'll play basically anytime there's a guitar anywhere near, I pick it up, and to the dismay of some people at family gatherings and stuff. But it was like I was playing. I don't remember what I was playing, but I was playing like an actual piece, and my brother-in-law, he said something like, "You're just playing a bunch of like cantina music." I was like, "No, this is like a famous classical piece." But so it probably really helps because there it is a special interest. It probably helps to have a little guide through the music.
Well, like for
Uh,
instance, yeah, exactly. Like for instance, everybody's heard Greensleeves, right?
uh-huh.
Nobody knows that comes out of the Renaissance,
Right.
or hardly anybody knows that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're putting some context into where some of these tunes come from that they might be familiar with too. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So, but that's always it's always interesting. I was playing one place. You meet some interesting people too. I was playing at my grandmother's senior center. This was actually years ago, before I started performing, and I just brought the guitar. And this woman is sitting next to me, just pulling my sleeve. It's just like, "Do you play the harmonica?" I'm like, "No, I play the guitar." "Oh, can you play the harmonica?" I'm like, "I only have a guitar." So and I had this similar experience a couple of years ago, and one of the local senior centers. And this woman is like, "So, could you play something with a little more punch in it?" And I'm like, "Well, I did invite for a classical guitar concert, but I'd like something with more rhythms." And so I'm like, "Okay, we'll go to
Play us a
South America
song.
next." So yeah, I mean, but that's just good stories, right?
Yep.
Good war stories. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I had one. I used to play at this restaurant, which I I actually really enjoy playing at restaurants because it's no pressure,
Yeah.
and yet people really seem to enjoy it. You know, while they're having a steak. You know, they. But
Mm.
there was this just loud, obnoxious guy that sat down right in front of me, and I may have told this on the podcast once,
I
but
think you did. I seem to remember
okay.
you told the story
He
about.
thought I was going to play a Poison song,
Yeah.
and he was loud. I could hear everything he was saying, and said, "Here it comes. Every rose has its thorn." So I just launched right into the grand solo, and really at the time I was probably at the peak of my playing abilities.
uh,
And fortunately, that night had a really good night. I came out strong, and it felt really good. And
cool.
he shut right up. I don't know if he liked it, but it definitely was more than he was expecting.
Yeah, but that's how I feel about playing the senior centers too. I mean, it's they really enjoy it, and there's not so much pressure either.
Yeah,
But I guess performing is performing. But and then sometimes I do volunteer to play some places, but I also take paid uh, concerts sometimes. So
right,
it's mostly just to do something, try out different things, do something new. So
right on. It's a
yeah.
great way to keep your chops in shape.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So anyway, I guess I diverged from the talk about compositions with talk about compositions.
Well, that's great. I mean, really, I should talk more composition on the show. I guess I don't. I only have so much to say about it, and so I
Yeah.
end up rambling about movies and whatnot. But
Which is great. I love that. I
well,
mean,
thank you.
yeah, I really liked the show you had about the the horror movie showdown or whatever for your Halloween
Yeah, me too.
episode.
I think we're going to do a follow up this year because I kind of like the idea of doing a Halloween episode and
Mm.
kind of at least on my part, what I think I would do differently this time. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
No, but I think it's cool that you have other things that's part of the show as well. So
Well, thank you. Yeah,
uh,
it's kind of become a fun thing, and people
yeah,
seem to enjoy it. So I really
yeah.
had in mind just music,
Mm.
but really overestimated how many compositions would be flying in each week.
Well,
But
that's good.
it's
It
become what
seemed
it is, and it's
it seemed for a while there that after the first 5 to 10 episodes or something that there was a bit of a shortage maybe, but it seems like a lot more is coming in. And that's great.
yeah. I mean, it took a while to, I think, just for people to find it.
Mm.
I didn't do a very aggressive like advertising campaign with it or anything. I was just kind of,
Yeah.
I tried to get on some forums and stuff and throw it out there, but I'm not a big forum guy or even social media. I have accounts, but I just don't like it, so I don't.
I think I
You
came
know.
across it by accident. I was searching for classical guitar on Spotify or something, and it came up. So it
Oh,
was
cool.
coincidence, I think. So
Yeah, and then the more people listen to it, more people find it because it comes up like on things like that, and
yep.
but then the pandemic really is where it changed, I think,
Mm.
because when I was going for a while, really kind of got into this rhythm is okay, well, I'll feature like a composer each episode and play what they send me, and then during the pandemic, all of a sudden I'm getting, I think people were home and they're like, okay, I'm going to finally record my pieces or finish them or whatever. I just started getting all
Yeah.
these. And so I was like, I had to make a choice. Do I keep the same format of the show or do I have like one episode with 10 compositions? And ultimately I ended up, it's still kind of that way now as I get a composition. I'm like, okay, I'll have you on the show in about 3 months, you know, but I think it's a good thing.
That is a good thing. I mean, and
You
then you
know?
have more things to choose between too. So that's great.
Yep. Yep.
So
That being said, thank you, Christian. I really do appreciate that. So, uh, now, are you a horror movie fan? I'm just going to go ahead and ask you since we've touched on that.
I used to watch a lot more horror movies before than I do now. So I don't watch a lot of horror movies anymore, I must admit. Um, but then
Well,
again, I don't watch too many movies anymore. Feels
yeah,
like I always have something else to do. Um,
you know, as much as I talk about it, that
mm.
I'm the same way. So
Yeah, exactly. But what
I,
I
I,
do,
I was just gonna. I find there. I enjoy. I like I say. I have a real love of horror movies, but I'm often talking about things that I haven't seen anything new. I don't
yeah.
because I'd rather go fishing or
Yeah, so I
you know.
do actually, watch some series while I'm either doing some work that I can multitask on or something,
Yeah,
with building, or when I'm putting on French polish, I often have Netflix going in the background.
yeah, yeah.
um, but it's not very often I sit down and watch a movie anymore, unless it's something new and very exciting. But I think sci-fi and is probably one of my favorite genres, along with some fantasy.
Okay.
So,
I
but I love it when there's a mix of horror into it. So that's
Yeah, me
always fun.
too.
Mm.
I like that sci-fi horror crossover.
Yeah,
I
me
also
too.
just love. I one movie I do. I'm actually gonna try to make it to the theater to see is Dune. I don't
Mm.
know how familiar you are with Dune, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've read the book and
okay.
watched the original movie.
Yeah,
so,
I hope
so
this one's better.
I hope so too. The original one. I mean, the first book was fantastic. I loved it, and I started to read the second one, I guess, and I didn't find that as enticing. I seem to
Did
remember.
you stop there?
I think so. Yeah.
We I
So.
You didn't miss much. I feel
Yeah.
I stuck through it, and yeah, I felt like the first one was. I, I love the first one, and yeah, the
Yeah.
second one they just get weirder and weirder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly.
they yeah I
So,
do. Yeah.
no, I was just thinking. You started earlier to ask about my compositions. I don't know if you had any questions about that, but
Well, I just thought, yeah, let's hear about them, like what they are and how they came about. I know you had told me in an email, but I'd rather
yeah.
have you
So,
just go ahead and tell everyone yourself.
yeah. So quite often I get ideas. I just sit and play around the guitar, and I get ideas that I start working on, and then quite often I just leave them around for a long time to process, and then come back and complete them at other times. So it's very rarely that I create a whole piece on the fly, but it does has happened. But so these are kind of all. I guess there was three pieces I sent you now, and these are sort of pieces that's been floating around in my mind for a long time. And finally, this Christmas, I sat down and wrote the scores for them and finalized them, to put it that way. So, and
So
mhm.
these are not just solo guitar, right?
Yeah,
Oh, they are solo guitar.
those are solo guitar. Yeah.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah, no problem. No, I've made others too that are sort of have some accompaniment as well.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's what I'm remembering.
Yeah, and made some that's related to the different seasons or whatever seasonal moods I've called it, and that has some accompaniment of different kinds. That's you played one of them before, the Sounds of Fall.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but these are all for solo guitar. So I have this goal this year to finish enough to create an album or a release or something like that.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Cool.
Probably this year or next year. But I have quite a few bit of material that I've been working on and off for a long time. So I'm hoping to finish enough this year to get that off the bucket list to publish an album of classical guitar pieces that I've composed.
Well, that's. I'm looking forward to seeing that. You definitely let me know when it's finished.
Absolutely, totally will.
I think there's nothing that feels better than when the composition is flowing and it's working, and you
Yeah,
know.
And I know you talked about this on the show before, though. Sometimes you just force your way through it or whatever
You
to
know,
complete it, and yeah,
yeah, I have to get in a place sometimes where I just do that, and that usually kind of opens the doors, though. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like,
yes,
if I just
absolutely.
force the piece to be finished, I often come up with a better piece next, or it just gets the wheels turning again. And I've been kind of in a little stuck right now, so. But a lot
Yeah,
of that I think has to do with I've been tackling some bigger house projects and stuff. So I hate to admit it, but guitar has kind of taken a back seat over the last little while.
it does from time to time for everyone. I guess it did for me too for about 10 years or
Yeah,
so.
you
I tend
mentioned
to,
being a father really slowed that down. I'm
and having no place to practice kind of kills the vibe.
yeah,
As much as people in your household love hearing you play guitar, they don't want to hear the same phrase, 15, 20, 30 times in a
yeah, yeah.
row.
pick pick a new.
Which
Yeah, you're breaking down this small section, and
exactly.
yep.
So they're like my son says, but you're just playing the same thing again and again and again. That's practice for you. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
but yeah, like you said, sometimes just pushing through open soul new doors. One of these pieces, the one that's called First Light, when that's one of those I kind of pushed through. And when I was writing it, I was kind of, but after I've been done with it, I've found that it's one that I like a lot, and probably one of my favorites the last year, or for quite some time. And the more and more I play it, I'm really, really enjoying it. And so sometimes you push through and you get really good results, or at least you're happy with it yourself, which is to me the most important thing anyway.
yeah, me too. I think that's a great small story of how that can go because that's not what you're expecting, and that's the reason to push through and finish the piece, whether
E-
you're liking it or not. Because
exactly.
yeah, I've kind of had
Totally.
experiences like that too, where
Mm.
you know something I didn't think was very good on the other end is I actually really like this, and I find myself playing it. So
Exactly.
yeah,
So
well, very cool, Christian. Man,
cool. Do we have
I've
other topics? I guess I've spent used quite a bit of your time.
oh no, that's no trouble at all. I'm so glad you did this. To me, this is a very fun and special episode is doing things like this, and I was really excited when you expressed interest. So
Yeah, no, I just thought about it, and I figured that would be cool and maybe interesting to people as well. And I saw you're getting another luthier on here, and that's gonna be very interesting to see, his perspective. There's a lot of different opinions, and there's a lot of different, about how to build and woods and methods and techniques and glue and finish.
yeah,
So
we didn't even get into glues. Yeah,
exactly. There's some very strong, I can say there's some very strong opinions about glue as well out there. So,
I might have to ask him about that.
and
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean that should be. It's kind of funny. That's like the compositions all of a sudden having no relation to the other. I have two luthiers who say, "Hey, I'd like to come on." It's like
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. No, but I think it's important for guitarists to understand that what I mean. There's building instrument is there's like I said before, there's a lot that goes into it. So take really good care of them because
yeah,
they are precious and they are easily broken if you don't take care of them. So I'm gonna do the tip number two of the day: humidity. Keep the between 40 and 60% always. A cracked guitar really blows.
yeah. Yeah,
So
unfortunately here we it's about as dry as it gets out here.
I know.
So I've had I've had my no cracked guitars, but
That's good to hear.
I've had like bracings fall off and stuff, they
Yeah,
things like that. It is a battle to keep the humidity in a dry climate,
absolutely.
but yeah, no, I love what you said. It's like you know, if you go like visit a farm, you appreciate your food, where your food
Hmm.
actually comes from more, and but there's something extra special about like a handmade guitar from someone like yourself versus something coming out of a factory. You know, that there's an art to it and a craftsmanship, and it's something I truly admire because it's a skill I don't have, and but yet reap the benefits of every day.
I still think it's crazy that I can build them. It's kind of unbelievable that it's yeah, I can make guitars out of that potentially very expensive firewood I get in the mail.
Yeah, yeah, it really is.
So I still, but I love it. It's so great, and to hear them make sound is amazing. So it's a very good feeling.
Right on. Thank you very much, Christian. It's
My pleasure. Thank you.
it's been a joy to meet you and talk to you. And
Me too, very much. So let's keep in touch. I will keep sending you music, and if there's anything, if you have other questions, or if any of the listeners have questions, I'm more than welcome to try to answer them to the best of my ability. So,
awesome.
and I can send you the scores for these pieces. I don't know if I did that. I know you collect them, so.
I do. Thank you. Yes, I really appreciate that.
And they're also available on my websites, so for downloads. So they're all most of them. The music for solo classical guitar, I publish the music there, and it's available for free. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Christian.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, maybe we will do this again in a few years or down the line when
That'd be fun, and maybe there are some other aspiring builders out there that get both, inspired by that you can start and pick this up without any, prior.
I'm not going to deny that I'm a little inspired myself, feeling that way. So.
Actually, that's kind of fun. I mean, I put out now that you mention it, I put out after I built the first one. I made like a YouTube video of all the pictures. I think I said it to you at one point in time.
Yeah, I did watch that one.
And
that's like the original one you sent me, right?
I've gotten a lot of people contact me about that. And, this one guy said that, I watched that in my lunch break every day for months before I started building my own guitar. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Oh.
So, there's, it's fun when you can inspire some people. And it was the first YouTube video I ever made. And it's got like, I don't know, 90, 100,000 views or something. And I'm like, okay, that's just crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Not a lot in the big picture, but still, I never expected anything.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing time to be alive, that you can just, I need to learn to do this myself. So I'm going to. Where's that book I put on the shelf?
Yeah. So. Great. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you, Christian. Have a good night.
And you too. And we'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Great.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. And that was my interview with Christian Heim. I enjoyed that very much. And, I forgot there were more questions I had for him, but in a good way, the interview just sort of turns into a conversation, and, I like the way it went. So maybe next time. We're now going to hear 3 pieces from Christian. The first one being Lights in the Dark, followed by Above the Clouds, and then we will end with First Light. All right. We have just heard my interview with Christian Heim, guitarist and luthier and composer, and we have heard Christian's recent works Lights in the Dark, Above the Clouds, and First Light. Again, thank you, Christian. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you all did too. And with that, we're going to call it a show. I'll be back next month. Till then, keep on plucking.